All right, so we're broadcasting now. This is
Hey, Armin.
Armin. Hey, this is Armin Navabi from Atheist Republic, and
Hi, I'm Melissa Kraftek.
all right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm an atheist. I am a former sort of fundamentalist Christian, and I'm kind of new in the world this year. I study Arabic. I'm writing a book. What else do you want to know?
Why are you studying Arabic?
Um, that's a good question. I've always loved languages, and since I was a little kid, and way back in 1998, I got to go to Egypt for a month. And don't go in July; it's very hot. Um, but learned a little bit then, and I'd always loved ancient Egypt, and just kind of got fascinated with the language and people, and been
Hmm?
studying on and off for about 10 or 11 years.
And you're
Yeah.
writing a book with Richard Dawkins?
Well, not with Richard, but he is advising me, and he is the one who suggested it actually, and is planning to write the foreword. Yeah, it's called for now. It's called "Losing Your Life to Save It," and it's a book of experiences, people's experiences. I want to let people know how atheists are treated, with the trauma they go through when they come out from religious families and religious communities, and what people experience in their day-to-day life and that sort of thing.
All right, sweet. So you mentioned to me that when is this after again? This is probably after that you became an atheist. When
Mm-hmm.
you had a lot of Muslim friends, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one thing that you did to support them that it was that you used to wear the hijab in support of defending their.
Just once, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what was your feelings about the hijab then, and and how did you feel like you were supporting them at that time?
Well, at the time, I think this was I guess it was last February, February 1st. It was right before that. I have a number of hijabi friends in my town. It's a pretty conservative town. It's pretty religious, mostly Mormon, I think. And I had talked to these friends, and I knew how they were treated in town. Not badly, not overtly badly, but just people look at them funny. People are uncomfortable. Sometimes they get nasty looks when they walk into places. And I've been hearing that for a couple of years, from friends. I have other friends in other areas in California that had told me of experiences that they'd have of people calling them names, or just generally being rude, and they're easily identifiable as Muslims, wearing the hijab. So a friend, Raida, she was organizing an event called I Stand with Hijabis, and it was a dinner in Orange County, California, near where I live. And that's she'd approached me, and a couple other friends had approached me with wearing a pink hijab for that day, to show that I supported my Muslim friends, and stood with their right to wear what they want, in America. And as a secularist, I wanted to I wanted to support them. I wanted, they're a minority in the States, and a lot of people give them grief for having a head covering, and it makes me sad. I think it's wrong, but at the time, all I thought I was doing was supporting just those friends, and I wanted to know what it felt like to wear a head covering, and see how people looked at you. I wanted to see what it felt like to walk into a crowded room and look different, and see how that affected how people, even people I knew, would talk to me, if they would talk to me, if they would look at me oddly, that kind of thing. So those were the reasons that I wanted to wear it that day, to show my friends that I really care about them, and I wanted them to feel included, and to experience what it was like to be the recipient of some
And did you get a lot of
prayers.
appreciation? Did they mention anything like were they great? Was anybody grateful for the fact that you were doing that?
Yes, actually, my friend Willa, who gave me the pink hijab to wear, she was just super happy to have that someone stand with her, because she's kind of by herself most of the time. And her husband was really happy. He thanked me. A number of other friends were just really pleased by kind of having a show of solidarity from someone who wasn't a Muslim, and from our community.
So, but you have changed your mind on this. Uh, a little
Yeah,
bit.
I
Yeah.
have.
So what?
And
Why?
part of it,
Yeah.
why? Well, right after I put a picture of myself, and I did put caveats when I posted this because I knew it was a contentious thing and I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to do it. Like I said, I wanted to do this to support my friends and to show that in the US, when it is a choice, these friends that I'm talking about, they do choose. We can get into whether or not that's really a choice or not, but they're professing that it is a choice to wear hijab, and it's part of their religious identity. And in the US, that's something I want to support. But what changed is after I posted my picture, Yasmin Mohammed, and I got into a big conversation about the purpose of the hijab and the history and how it is used.
So Yasmin Mohammed from the from Confessions of the
Of an
Ex-Muslim and the
ex-Muslim.
host of the Secular Jihadist podcast, which I'm also a
Yeah.
co-host on. So
Yes.
you were friends before?
Yeah, but just starting to be friends. We hadn't talked a whole lot.
Okay, so she's an ex-Muslim, and she has, as a Muslim, she had a very bad experience with hijab, and
Yes.
she started, um, you know, schooling you, I guess, on what the
Oh
hijab
yeah,
is.
that's a great way to that's a great way to put
So,
it. And she's a lovely person, and she was kind, but she was very strong, and
yeah.
made me look at it from a different perspective. Now, one thing she pointed out was that I really wasn't aware that it was anything more than a local event. I didn't know that it was also World Hijab Day, and if I had known that, I may have made a different choice because. Like I said, I was trying to promote my local friends, and my, efforts in my local area to make sure that people are not treated badly simply because of their religion. I did not realize that it happened to be on the same day as, and then it would be as if I was supporting the hijab as an excellent way to promote modesty and all of these things, because I don't agree that anyone should be forced to wear it, and I know it's a huge problem outside of the West. So I kind of felt like I was not tricked, but I kind of slid into supporting something that I didn't intend to support. But she pointed out, and then you pointed out that you can support people and stand with them, but not have to adopt a symbol that you don't agree with. And I thought that was a really good point.
Yeah, but just to play the devil's advocate here,
Yeah.
why can't, like, if it's a choice in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if this is something that people are discriminated against for it in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
And compared to some other forms of being minority, it's easier to identify, right? Like, for
Yeah.
example, just like black people are so easy to discriminate against,
Right.
easier to discriminate against more than maybe gay people, because you don't it's not sometimes not obvious that you're gay. It's not obvious sometimes that you're an atheist.
Right.
But and even if you're a male Muslim, it's not
Mm-hmm.
obvious that you're that you're a Muslim, right? But if you're a
Right.
female Muslim and you wear the hijab, you're easily identifiable as a Muslim, and you could
Yes.
be easier a subject of discrimination, right? And given that that's the case, just to as a show of solidarity, why do you think now, as me and you, as in your new view, that this might be problematic to wear the hijab? What has changed? Why do you think it's not okay for us to wear the hijab as a show of solidarity for people that are being discriminated against?
Well, it's still a bit of a topic that I go back and forth on, but I've done a lot more reading. I've listened to a lot more people talking about their different perspectives from different places all around the world and within the US, and from Muslims and ex-Muslims especially. And I think what really changed for me is that I started to realize that the hijab is being promoted as a feminist symbol,
Mm.
a, uh, a, a symbol of, well, modesty. And I mean, that's something I have an issue with right there. The idea that if you wear a hijab, you're modest, and if you don't, you're not. That you're kind of, it's sort of by definition that you're immodest, and you're not, and that's not desirable in a woman. And so I struggle with the idea of it being a feminist symbol. Now, that said, I do know hijabi women and friends who wear this scarf that I would say are definitely feminist. And they work hard for equal rights, and for them it really is something they've chosen to wear. I have a couple friends who've chosen to wear it against the wishes of their family. So it seems like it's kind of an individual situation, whether it's really a choice in your family or not. And I don't like the idea of it being considered a feminist symbol, because in so many parts of the world, it's not a symbol of feminism; it's a symbol of oppressing women.
So tell me if this is correct. So you basically are now uncomfortable with wearing it because of what you learned that what it represents in most of the
Yeah.
world. So you
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a way to support these women that are being discriminated against um, without giving legitimacy or to a symbol that is in many places is a force for oppression. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think it's complicated because of the way that, Muslims are more of a minority in the West, and especially in the United States. I mean, they do get a lot of flack and a lot of bad treatment. And how women wearing a hijab is can be a target, an easy target. It's so easy to spot her, and that's wrong. And I think that if someone decides they want to wear a symbol, I mean, I was a Christian. If I wanted to wear a cross, I would have been really upset if someone said I couldn't wear across. And having freedom of religion, I think it's important to be able to choose what you wear and not have it mandated from by the government. But I now think that I would rather just treat my friends normally and help them be treated like normal people. If they're good people, then they deserve to be treated well, without putting myself out there as promoting something that I just don't agree with. I don't agree with things like, I read a tweet this morning about, there was something from Reddit, and a guy, his wife took his daughter to visit family, and their little 1.5-year-old is now wearing a scarf. And that's not a choice.
Right. So Lalo is pointing out in the live chat that a Muslim girl got death threats for dancing in the street while wearing a hijab. So sometimes the hijab, and this was in the West, so sometimes the hijab could be a pinpoint for even Muslims to discriminate against, against a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just non-Muslims that discriminate against hijabi women, but if you wear the hijab, a lot of Muslims might see you representing Islam, so your actions are being put under a microscope as well by the Muslim community. And also,
Yeah.
Lalo is asking me, and also there's another question before that as well, but Lalo is asking me to ask you if you, where is it? If so he says that, okay, you're supporting the right for women to wear the hijab, but also, do you also support the decision for them to wear the hijab?
Well, I don't like the decision. I wish they didn't feel like they needed to wear it, or that it was necessary to show that they were a good person, or a good believer in their religion. Thinking back to when I was a Christian, we were told to wear modest clothing. You're not going to wear low cut shirts or things like that. Just to cover yourself. It's just a little different, and it's not quite as obvious. And I chafed against that myself. People telling me what I should do in order to be good in my religion, or considered moral, that sort of thing. So I mean, I suppose I support their decision, is to the extent that it is their own decision. Like I said, it's not their family forcing it, that they're not going to have a lot of backlash if they don't wear it. But what you said about women putting it on, and then they're judged at a higher standard, which right there is a problem, because it's saying that already, because they're wearing it, they're better than anyone who isn't wearing it. So
Right.
I have a hard time with that.
Well, if the thing is, I think I know what he's getting at when he's saying the support. Because, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I might support the right for somebody to wear the KKK costume, right, or a
Mm-hmm.
swastika, but I don't like the decision, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I wouldn't support the decision, but I would support the right to do that. And actually, now that he brought that up, there's a really good quote by Alishba,
Yeah.
right? You know, and she mentioned, okay, I just read it, and she said, "What I feel about the hijab is identity and liberation apologists
Mm-hmm.
is the same thing I feel about the Confederate flag supporters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, free speech protects your right to to sport one. Is that how you say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But do not forget the fucking history and traditional use of that symbol, right? So
Yeah.
that's a
I've seen that.
yeah. So she's basically saying if you're wearing it, just acknowledge what it stands for, right? And
Yeah.
acknowledge the history behind it. What do you think about? So this was another question posted. Somebody wanted your opinion about whether burqas should be illegal or banned. Not the hijab,
Mm-hmm. But
but
the
the whole
full
face
cover.
covering. Yeah.
Okay. Back for a second to what Alishba said. Yes, I feel like with this whole promotion of the hijab as being a feminist symbol, that it's completely forgetting about whether it's intentional or unintentional. I'm sure there's a mix of that. Forgetting about how it isn't a symbol of feminism in a lot of the world. So I agree, and I think a lot of people who are being told, "Well, wear a hijab to support," and kind of like me, didn't really understand the full implications of what it means in the other parts of the world. And back to the question about whether I think the burqa should be banned. No, and I know there's a lot of different angles to this, and I've thought about it a lot, and I was thinking about it today. I don't think any sort of clothing should be banned. I am in favor of in public places or for security reasons having your face uncovered. I don't think anybody should be able to walk into a government office or to get on a plane and have their face covered, because you can't identify somebody just by their eyes. And
But
so I think that should be covered.
just public places, not a bank or an
Mm-hmm.
airport,
Just out in public.
just in public?
No, I don't think it should be banned. I mean, I think people should have a right to dress in accordance to what they think is right. But I know that's not necessarily going to be a popular opinion. But
what do you think about when face coverings are becoming illegal in places where
mm-hmm.
they weren't illegal, but now that the niqab issue is coming out,
mm-hmm.
they're banning all face covering? Do you think but they're saying like they're being fair because it's for every face covering,
mm-hmm.
but it seems like that's just an excuse to just ban the niqab, and that's their main target for it. Like, do you think that's an issue?
Probably in some cases. I'm not sure that I know enough to comment too much. I think if it's in a matter of identity and everybody needs to have their face viewable, then it is across the board. Unfortunately, it seems to then target certain people, which is a little bit tricky. But that's why I think I don't ban it. I wouldn't be in support of banning it just in the rest of life. I think if someone, it's hard because I'm thinking my perspective of when I was a believer, how strongly I believed, and how even though it may not have really been a choice for me because of how I grew up, what I should wear, what I should do, for me, it felt like a choice. It felt like my decision to wear what I did or do what I did, in support of my own faith. And I don't think that should be taken away from anybody by law or by restrictions like that. But I can absolutely see that there could be situations where people are doing this to really kind of target Muslims, and I can absolutely imagine why they might feel that way as well.
Lalo is pointing out that hijab is not a symbol for oppression; it's actually a tool,
form of oppression. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's saying it's not comparable to the Confederate flag, because the Confederate flag is not actually being used to oppress anybody. It's just a symbol of.
It's a symbol of what you think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, that's a good point. I mean, it's a physical covering, right? I mean, it actually. I've read descriptions of women, saying that they felt completely invisible, they've lost their identity. Nobody can see who they are. And I've read some people describing that they like that anonymity. I said that wrong, and anonymity. But yeah, it's a tool. It's a physical thing that goes on to somebody. And I mean, I'm thinking about that little girl, playing with her hijab, and she's 1.5. She has no idea what it is, what it's for, why she would need to wear it. It's just something cool her grandparents, gave to her.
I know. Back in the Iran, when during Reza Shah's time,
Yeah.
He forced a ban on hijab,
Yeah.
right? And this was before the Islamic Revolution. He wanted to modernize Iran, so women were not allowed to wear the hijab. And when he did that, a lot of women just stayed home.
Yeah.
And a lot of women wouldn't come out until he was removed and the law was changed, and then they start coming out. So that was one example of how it could go extremely the other way. And then when the revolution happened in Iran, now the extreme other way is that it's forced up on women. And my childhood, growing up in the liberals, community in Iran, my experience was that with what I heard from women was constant complaining about having to wear the hijab. And as a kid, I didn't understand why they're complaining. It's just a piece of cloth. Like, okay, maybe in summertime it's too hot and you complain about that. But I couldn't understand, and this is my male privilege probably, and I couldn't understand why is this such a big deal. It's just just wear it, right? But I didn't understand that was for them, for the liberal women in Iran, that was a symbol of all the other rights that were taken away from them as well, and all the other injustices to them, and the fact that they were considered lower, the fact that the government has the right to tell them what to even wear, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of feels for me not understanding that what that meant to them is kind of like going and telling a master telling somebody, his slave, to put this dog collar around your neck, and me thinking like, what's the problem? It's just a dog collar.
It's just a decoration, right?
It's a decoration, but you don't understand what does that represent, right?
Yeah.
Around your neck, right? So that's something. My mom was arrested early after the revolution for just wearing her hijab was red.
So it's the wrong color.
So she was right now is colorful hijabs are normal in Iran, right? But early after the revolution, she was arrested for simply having her hijab being too colorful, and she had to go to mandatory, lectures for purifying her, right?
Wow.
And this is actually funny because they were telling her, why would you do this to our young men? Our young men have sacrificed so much for this country, for our revolution. Why would you tempt them? And why would you try to corrupt them like this, right? And my mom's response was very clever. She was like, no, you don't understand. My hijab is red in the honor of the blood that they have sacrificed for this country.
I like your mom.
Yeah.
That's great. What you said about, not understanding it's, why is it a big deal? Yeah, I can see. I mean, it's a visual symbol. It's something you're forced to do, like every day having to wear the same shirt or something, just because that was considered what was right, being and just as being a symbol of other things that have taken away. That's probably just, every time someone would look in the mirror or see a friend, you would see something that you didn't have to do before and now you have to do. And I can see that being especially difficult for someone who didn't grow up with it, but I think people growing up with something like that, it just seems normal, and so it doesn't seem to be such a big deal. And maybe that's part of the reason that people here, don't realize that it's such an issue in other places, because maybe it's just not as strict. Now, I know didn't you put on a niqab one time?
Yeah, but to be fair, Yasmin Mohammed made me wear the niqab.
Yeah, to see what it was like, right?
To see what it was like, to see how it felt. To be fair, I felt kind of cool because it made me feel like a ninja. So I don't know if it had the desired effect that she was looking for, but
Maybe not, but
no, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, but that was really cool because she gave a speech, and
mhm.
but she had like a show and tell. Like she had made everybody pass it around, and everybody try it on to see how it feels like. But when you try it on, you actually have to imagine that wearing that all the time, like
Yeah,
meeting people every day, and nobody can even tell who you are. Like, I mean,
yeah,
you associate people identity with their faces. That's how you
yeah.
connect. When I think about Melissa, your face comes into
Face
my
comes.
mind,
Yeah,
right? But if you don't have that face if you rob people from that, you're basically stealing their identity. If you have
yeah,
no face to connect that name to, right?
yeah.
Um,
I think that's true.
One thing Sarah Hayder mentioned when we were talking about banning hijab, she
Hmm.
said that and she mentioned that at the conference in London, with the one that Mariam Namazi
Yeah,
set up, which is the largest gathering of ex-Muslims worldwide, which was amazing.
that was great.
Yeah, you were there too.
Obviously,
Um,
is that with you?
yeah, no, I'm just telling the audience that you.
Oh,
But um, she mentioned that when she was still a Muslim, if her first experience with the ex-Muslim movement was the banning of hijab, she
hmm.
might have stayed a Muslim till today. So
Hmm.
so we might have lost somebody like Sarah Hayder to from the ex-Muslim movement, and she would have still been a Muslim if that was like she would say that she would have a reactionary um,
Yeah,
you know thing to that to
I
that
think that's probably true for a lot of people. I mean,
right.
as soon as you, well, I mean, look at the idea of Islamophobia, right? The idea that as soon as someone perceives you as attacking something that's important to them, you know, you cling even harder to that thing. You know, when I was a believer, and someone would tell me I was wrong. I mean, that didn't happen a whole lot, but especially growing up. But when I would read something or hear someone tell me that what I believed was wrong, you take that as a personal affront, and it's kind of like I think it would be a backfire effect that you're being forced to do something against your will. So I think I can totally understand why she would feel that way about a ban.
So here's a question, and both to you and also the people in the live chat. I want to see their comments. What would be the right way for us to represent and basically be honest about what the hijab means and what
Mm-hmm.
it does, and at the same time support the right for people to wear it and not feel like these women that are wearing the hijab that are already being discriminated against,
Mm-hmm.
for them to also feel like we're also attacking them,
Yeah.
right? So what's a good strategy for us to say, like, we think that hijab is stands for this,
Mm-hmm.
but also if hijabi women listening to us, we don't want them to feel like we're like personally targeting them. you know
Right.
that's a very hard thing to do. What are your views on that?
Well, I mean, I think we have to really kind of recognize that it, it's almost becoming two different things. There's the origin of it. There's the current use of it as a tool of oppression, around the world, and then there's sort of a rebranding going on here. Trying to take a symbol and change it to mean something else, and so it's tricky because if you tell a woman who here in the US or something, or in Canada, who decides they want to put it on, and for them their decision is because it's a personal symbol of their faith, that they want to go out and show people that they are a Muslim and they are close with God, and that's why they've decided to put it on. Telling them that it's a source of oppression somewhere else is just going to be, well, it's not going to feel like it relates to them. It's going to feel like, well, that's somewhere else. That's not how I'm using it. So I'm allowed to use it this way, and that's a totally different story. So I think you kind of have to recognize that it's kind of separating into a different narrative here.
Well, to be fair, a lot of them here that wear the hijab, they would get a lot of pushback from their community
That's
and their
true.
family also if they don't wear it. Lala is pointing out that we don't have to support their rights to wear it because they already have that right. That's
It's
true,
true.
but what about speaking out against people that target them as and discriminate against them and shame them in public
Yeah.
for and use the hijab as a way to identify them as Muslims to target them, right? We want to be able to not add to that voice, not
Right.
be part of that problem, and at the same time be honest about what the hijab does and what it stands for, right? So,
Yeah.
but I don't know, because a lot of Muslims take any talk about their Islam as a personal attack on them, and
Right. And
it's
I felt that way about my own religion. Mm-hmm.
so yeah, but we have to find a way to be able to separate these two. To not, it doesn't matter how many times we say it. If they don't
Yeah.
get that, our messages are not good. People are going to always see our messages as personal attacks. There needs to be a way for us, a good strategy for us to be able to do that without targeting. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still trying to find ways.
Well, I mean, I think one aspect of it has to be personal conversation, interaction. If you meet a woman wearing a hijab and you dislike the hijab and you don't want her to be wearing and you would wish they would not make a decision, the best way to do that is not going to be saying you should take off your hijab. It's a tool of oppression of women. I mean, that's immediately going to be not taken well, and you're just going to look like a jerk to that person. So, I have asked my friends, why do you wear it? Did your parents ask you to wear it? What would happen if you chose not to wear it? Do you really have a choice not to wear it? So I've had conversations individually. I mean, that's just a one-on-one basis. I'm not sure how to scale that up.
So Lala is pointing out that he's saying that he's disagreeing with us. He's saying
Okay.
these women are misguided and they
Well, that's probably the case.
And and we should be against them. I think that's what he was saying.
Against the women themselves, or just
because he's saying we shame and mock Mormon men and women for wearing magic underwear. So why do we feel why is it different over here? So I think that, yeah, but here's the thing. I will mock wearing magic underwear,
mm-hmm.
but I'm still not gonna mock the Mormons personally, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna go to a Mormon saying like, haha, you're stupid, you're wearing magic underwear, you really think that's gonna do anything?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like wearing, I think those are two separate things. I was saying like wearing magic underwear is stupid, and at the same time, but if I meet like a Mormon, I'm gonna be like, what? Like, I'm gonna try to take a friendly tone with them, right? Like, that's the only way to reach out to. And the thing is that people are misguided. But the thing is that, and I think Lalo might hate me after saying this. Oh, so he's saying no. I'm saying you're misguided. He's saying we're misguided. All right. So
okay.
So what I think is that most people in the world are wrong about many things. I'm pretty sure I am wrong about many things. There's no way that
every day.
I'm pretty sure not all my beliefs are correct. I'm pretty sure I have very misguided beliefs on some things. But I think I don't, and because people intelligence is not something very common, and I'm not gonna blame people for being wrong, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make fun of wrong ideas, but I think the best way to get through to them is that when we're talking to them as people, for them to see that we don't hate them, even if we disagree with them. And I've noticed that works better. Like, I've seen a lot of people change their minds, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just recently had a conversation with media, and she was a hijab, she's a hijabi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's a sweet, and Lalo agrees with me that she's a sweet girl. And now guess what? She's now picking up my book, Why There Is No God, and she's reading that, and she's reading God Is Not Great, and she's reading The God Delusion, right? So
Oh,
so
it's a heavy list.
yeah, she's reading all that, and she's scared about what she's gonna find. But the
Encounter.
thing is that I don't think if she would have read those books or considered our arguments, if we went to her like, oh, you're wearing a symbol, you're wearing a tool of oppression,
Yeah.
you're Muslim, so you must support this and that, and how could you be so stupid to think there's a God? You know, I think there should be two different. I mean, I'm not saying Lala is saying that, by the way, right? Um, I'm not. I think we should we should be able to say believing in God is ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
without pointing to any specific person, unless that specific person is somebody like Linda Sarsour and deserves to be pointed, right? But right, but
Well,
as
yeah.
Lala is pointing out, but. Um, but I don't think that for most people we could talk about ideas and say how ridiculous they are, but when it comes to individual, we could take a more and a more friendly tone. What do you think?
No, I think the same as you. I think because for the other instance, the other day, I mean, some very good friends that are Mormon, and my son is very close friends with their son, and he was getting baptized, and so we went to their church, and I was there as a friend. I absolutely don't believe in anything that they believe, and even when I was a Christian and believed in God myself, I would not have believed in what they believed then either. But we're they know that I'm an atheist, and I know that they're strong believers. And I went to that service to show that I love them and this important thing in their life. However, they also know that I disagree with it. And we're able to have conversations because we still are able to respect each other as people, even though we don't like, the things that they're doing. But yeah, I mean, there's that expression, you catch more flies with honey. I mean, if someone, for years, I was told, Richard Dawkins is a horrible, evil, atheist, disgusting person, a jerk. Anyone like Christopher Hitchens was an awful person. I would never, ever even consider reading something by any of them. Not a chance. It
What
took me
changed your mind?
years. I read I got a Kindle. I got a Kindle for Christmas, and I downloaded Dan Barker's book Godless like 7 years ago. I don't even know how I found that book. I don't have a clue what made me think I should check out that book. But I remember when I downloaded it, and the only reason I got it is because it was anonymous and no one would see me physically buying a copy of that book. I think I even looked to see if I could erase a transaction record for buying it, but I'm pretty sure I did. But I remember sitting down to start reading that book and thinking, okay, my faith is strong enough. It's okay. I should be able to hear what other people think, and it shouldn't affect me. Of course, it ended up completely affecting me. It could just systematically destroyed what I thought, and it took me a few years, but eventually my husband Tom, he just kept saying, listen, you have all these ideas about people and what they've said and what they think, but you've never actually read or listened to anything by them. How can you really know what they've said, and how can you have such strong opinions about something you don't actually know? You only have secondhand, almost propaganda experience. And finally, I think I kind of got annoyed, and it's like, fine, I'll pick something up. And I decided to pick up the God Delusion because I wasn't sure I could handle. I wasn't sure I could handle the science, material science and engineering, but I wasn't sure I could do the biology. So I picked up the God Delusion, and I was like, oh, this does not sound at all like what I thought, like this raging demon man of of nightmares. He's just a very rational person, and I realized that was a really good example of how wrong you can be about something. And even if I hadn't agreed with what was in the book and hadn't realized that it was an atheist, it was still a really strong example of how pernicious kind of propaganda and changing meanings can be. So
So now, and then you went to going from somebody that thought Richard Dawkins was like the devil himself to now him advising you on writing a book and everything, right?
yeah, and becoming friends. Yeah, I think I intrigued him by saying, absolutely, I grew up despising you and thinking you were a horrible person. I think he was like, oh. So yeah, now we've become friends. We communicated when I was telling people I was an atheist, and that's how the book came around.
So where can people find you on Twitter if they wanted to make sure they keep track of what you're doing and the book that it will be coming?
I'm on Twitter as molecular. That's molecular, like molecules, but with 2 O's. So MOOLECULAR. And then I have a Twitter account for the book too. It's at Losing to Save It, but you can find it if you find me first.
Okay, I'll just link to both of those when the YouTube of this. I'll link to both of them in the description. Okay. I just want to also just end this by reading another comment again by Lalo.
Okay. I hope to meet you, Lalo.
Yeah, but Lalo, I'm waiting for my discussion with Lalo at some point. But he's saying there's a terrible double standard when it comes to brown women in hijab versus white people in their ideological symbolic garments. That's a very good point. All right, so yeah, that was good, and thank you so much. I'll make sure I'll link to this, and I'll also
link it's good to talk to you, Armin.
Yeah, you too. And I think I also need to link to Lalo's podcast in this description because he contributed so much in the commentary. So yes. I'll link to that as well. Lalo has a really good podcast. You guys should check it out. Anyways, thank you so much, Melissa. This was really great.
One more second, Armin. I wanted to say that this is a topic that has so many different layers, and there's so many people affected in a lot of different ways, and depending on the country you're in and who you're interacting with and what the level of discrimination is about whether you're a minority or a majority, things like that. I wanted to say one more thing. When I was in Egypt in 2007, I met up with a friend I'd met in college that lived there, and she was Muslim. And when I met her in college, she wore the hijab. But when I met her years later in Egypt, she was furious about people being forced to wear it, and she would not wear it. And she was really angry about people being judged as being immodest for not wearing it, and because this is not how she grew up. And so I never had a chance to talk to her about when she took it off and what the results were, but I thought it was really interesting at that time to see, the change in how someone who had worn it herself and thought it was very important, now objected to being forced to wear it. So just something to think about. I think I'll try and get in touch with her. I'd like to know.
Yeah, let me know. By the way, Thanks, some people are saying they already follow you, so we share the same audience. That's
Hi.
All right. Okay. All right. This was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Armin. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.